They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now, the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. A score in the 700s is considered good. Around the 500 mark is not. For now, the number is a sort of bank credit rating, keeping track of everyone's spending habits.
It forces us to be well-behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it, and anyway, we don't have a choice.
But in an effort to keep all of its subjects in line, Beijing is taking the system a step further in 2020. It's aggregating data gathered by banks, private companies, and the state to rate if someone's a good or bad citizen. The state will go over every detail of a person's life with a fine-tooth comb: their financial situation, spending habits, career, even behavior on social media. Criticizing the government online or displaying outward signs of wealth is a no-no. On the other hand, praising the party or giving blood increases your social credit. Xiao Wenwang is a model citizen. She lives in Nanjing, a testing ground for social ranking. Married with a child, she has a job in a retirement home, no debts, and she wouldn't dream of jaywalking.
As a good citizen, I respect the rules of the road. If I didn't, I'd lose points on my social credit.
In theory, everything can be taken into account in the social score, even the most innocuous errands like supermarket shopping. When Xiao Wenwang makes an electronic payment, her purchases tell the state a lot about her. Buying cigarettes would count against her. On the other hand, nappies show she's an attentive mother. Beer could indicate alcoholism. She'd be better off buying water. In this pilot city of 8 million people, there are only 18,000 model citizens. For Xiao Wenwang, there are perks to be had, such as paying half price for the bus.
I get discounts for all public services, even at museums. And the library is free for me, thanks to my score.
A good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens. The Supreme Court has created a blacklist for so-called bad citizens, those whose ratings have dropped to 0. On it are companies, but also 23 million people to date. Among them is this journalist Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. After being sued for defamation by the subject of a story he'd written, he was blacklisted. But he only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
That tells me I'm still on the blacklist.
Punished because he's been branded untrustworthy by the state.
Once you're blacklisted, you can no longer get a bank loan, start a business, buy an apartment, or even send your children to a private school.
Liu Hu is among a tiny minority of people who have dared to criticize the system, which some are calling a digital dictatorship.
I worry, because I think many people like me will be deprived of individual freedoms, and all of us will live with restrictions of one kind or another.
After our meeting, Liu Hu learned that his name had been removed from the blacklist, but he still has a long way to go if he doesn't want to languish at the bottom of the social credit hierarchy.
It's the 7th of October. And we're here to talk about this new idea that has been precipitated by the hacking of Optus and Telstra, which I don't believe is true at all. But this, I believe, was all an excuse to bring in this social ID stuff. So that's why we're here. And I guess most of you are managing directors or business people, so this would be very pertinent to you. So what can we do about this, and why should we? First of all, what is it? Basically, what they're telling you now is that you have to register for a social account, and what they will start doing to you then is monitoring you. And if you do something wrong, they don't like you, or if you haven't paid your taxes in time, or you've done something else, the government can and will attack your bank account, take points off you, and eventually, if you lose too many points, you will lose your business. And that's what we're facing today. These governments have declared war on us. And if you don't know that, I'm going to explain why. cirnow.com.au. And this website has a lot of information about what the government has been doing. We've got one here, how the political parties stole our future, and this one here, criminals in government. I think this is required reading for everybody who wants to know what's going on. But basically, if we come in here, how the political parties stole our future, they performed 4 steps to do it, really. And I'm going to go through these here. So step 1, on the 2nd of February 1960, the political parties removed the Governor-General and Commander-in-Chief of the Commonwealth of Australia from representing Her Most Excellent Majesty. And ever since then, Queen Elizabeth II, well, I'm going to have to change all this soon, continues to appoint Governor-Generals, as she is bound to do by her coronation oath. However, once the appointment is received in Parliament, the political parties take her seal off the document and put their own Australian government seal on it instead. Now, this is treason because it is an attack on the Crown. This is the seal that they use. It's a fake one, and it has no Crown authority. And you see this everywhere. This one here is the true Crown seal. So this seal here was a parliamentary seal or armorial seal given to Parliament by a previous monarch, I think King George VI, for use in public matters such as letterheads, invitations to public functions, etc. It was not given to authenticate acts of Parliament. Now, when Whitlam came along, he made some changes to the appearance of this seal and copyrighted it to the Australian government and a corporation in the USA. We'll talk about that in a moment. In step 2, in 1966, the political parties created their own counterfeit money, the US-based dollars and cents with no head of power. That is, no Crown authority. If you look at our coins and money today, if there is a king or queen's head on there, there's no Crown. And it's not enshrined in our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act. In fact, the Constitution states that all government functionaries must be paid in pounds. And at the same time, the politicians used Australian troops as collateral for massive loans in dollars from the USA. Now, if you have a look at my jacket here, I am wearing the Air Force badge here, and that is because I am a Vietnam veteran. I served up in northeast Thailand as a support for the war. I sat in a little hut in the middle of the jungle, monitoring the communist broadcasts, and then that information I learned later on was being sent to the CIA as well as to the Australian government, and that was used to fight the Viet Cong. All right, let's get back in here. Step 3, E.G. Whitlam, a man with 1 vote in the Commonwealth of Australia, unlawfully took control of the government at the end of 1972 with the help from the Governor-General Paul Hasluck, who allowed Labor to take office before counting was due to be completed on the 15th of December. Then Gough Whitlam and Lance Barnard formed a duumvirate, that is a 2-man ministry, to run all 27 portfolios from the 5th to the 19th of December 1972. They presided over the smallest ministry in Australia's history, while they committed massive acts of treason. Whitlam reigned until his famous dismissal on the 11th of November 1975, making many changes while sitting in our Parliament. They changed the Constitution and official definitions without a referendum to create a private Commonwealth of Australia, all caps. That's very important, because when it's all caps, it's telling you that's outside of the Constitution. And where are we here? He changed the name of the government from the Parliament of the Commonwealth of Australia to the Parliament of Australia, again, all caps. Australia is the landmass. The people are the Commonwealth of Australia. We create the wealth through our toil, and that's where we gain our value. So therefore, by removing whereas the people from the preamble, a government under the name Parliament of Australia has no authority over the people. Okay, I won't read the whole thing here, there's quite a bit to it. And finally, step 4. In 1982, individuals without any authority known as the Prime Minister of Australia and the Premiers of the states, Oh, sorry, there was one more step. Yeah, step 4. With no referendum agreement of the people of the Commonwealth of Australia formulated the Australia Act 1986. And the Australia Act was designed to break all legislative ties between Britain and Australia. And that act was enacted to the Queen of Australia under the Whitlam political party's definition of Australia. And this act is sealed only with Whitlam's seal. So those are the 4 basic steps they took to destroy our Commonwealth of Australia and set up a Republic of Australia. We are living in a de facto republic. And that's why when you go to court, you are guilty before you even are tried. And there is no judge in the magistrate's court. There is no jury, and yet under common law, which is our highest law of the land, that is what the law states. You must go before a jury, and that dates right back to the Magna Carta. So that's the basis of it. So in other words, I think by now, if you've been listening to what they've done, it seems pretty obvious that we do not have a lawful government of the people, by the people, for the people. We've seen it many times with the elections. They make big promises, the political parties. And when, of course, when they get into Parliament, what do? They ignore us. They do what they want. And quite often those things are harmful to us, including the recent 2.5 years of COVID rubbish. But as managing directors of your companies or owners of your companies, now they're targeting you. And they want to get you out of business because they really don't want us here. Now, this all goes way back, a long way, to the Great Fire of London, which I believe was the first false flag operation in history. That killed a lot of people, and they set up these trusts in the city of London. Now, there are 3 power bases in the world. There is the spiritual power base in Rome, in the Vatican. London is the monetary power base, London City, not the whole of London. And Washington is the military power base, Washington, DC. Now, they all stem from the straw man. But when you are born, they create a trust in your name using your birth certificate. And then you are joined to their admiralty law. Now, admiralty law has nothing to do with common law. And as a result, when you go into court, they are taking money from that trust. But it's very hard to get your hands on that money because they control it. But there are ways to do it, and we'll talk about that in the future Zoom calls. But tonight, I just want to give you a bit of background on why the government is doing what it's doing. Now, if you do sign up for this social, or rather register as an owner of your business or a managing director, they will control everything that you do. They already do it already, but they don't have total control. You will not be able to make a decision without them telling you what to do. It's that simple. So I'm not going to talk too much tonight here, but I think it's time now. Are there any questions in the chat room? Put simply, common law, or the law of the land, has been used to govern and keep the peace in communities ever since mankind gathered together for their mutual protection. It is the body of law decided on by a community to govern themselves and to ensure all people can gain a remedy for any wrongdoing, any wrong done against them. And there's a very good little video here that explains things. And common law in Australia is vested in our Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901 and in the Magna Carta, I might add. It is the highest law of the land. And this website provides information, explains procedures, and makes available documents for anyone wishing to learn about and use common law. The information in here is free. Please share it. Tell everybody about it. We don't charge for it. And how do you stand in common law? The first step is to secure your live birth record. And you can do that by clicking here. And there's no charge for recording any of your information, including your business registration, your right to lawfully rebel, weddings, all sorts of things you can do on this website. Now, living in common law is a state of mind. You cannot change your status by begging the corporate system to release you or by registering pieces of paper with the corporate government proclaiming you are reclaiming your rights. They don't care and they will ignore your claims anyway. You are born with certain inalienable rights, and I call them inalienable because you cannot put a lien on your rights. You lose them when you agree to let others determine your rights for you. People cannot take your rights away without your permission. So when you refuse to allow anyone to override your rights, only then are you living free. And you can only live in common law when you refuse to acknowledge admiralty law and the assumed authority the political parties have imposed. Now, I should really come back here and explain something here. If you read the Constitution sections 7 and 24, they state very clearly in there that only we, the people, have the right to choose our representatives. It says nothing in there about the political parties doing that for us. And yet, what do we see all the time? Oh, vote for our political party representative or this party representative. And if any of you support One Nation or BOSI or any of these other political parties, BOSI is not a political party. A lot of people think that One Nation and Pauline are great people, and Pauline's a nice lady. I've met her, I know her very well. I actually stood for One Nation back in 2016. But the problem is she doesn't have any knowledge about our Constitution, and she abides by the party constitution and what the government tells her to do. So even though she gets up there and makes a lot of noise when she's saying, oh, I'm standing up for the people, no, she's not. She is bound by the same rules that all political parties in Parliament are bound by. And that is a fact. So section 7 and 24 of the Constitution, very important to read. I'm going to share you the screen here again, and I'll show you where you can download the Constitution. So go to commonlaw.earth, go to facilitate, download docs, and you can see in here, download the Australian Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act 1901. This one here, this one's about 24 pages or something. This one here is the Quick and Garran annotated Commonwealth of Australia Constitution. This is about 1,000 pages, and it was written by John Quick and Randolph Robert Garran, and they detailed all of the discussions that they had while they were writing the Constitution. It's a fascinating read, but 1,000 pages, you need a little bit of time to read it. If you want a list of the Australian constitutional referendums, you can download it here so you can see that we actually voted in 2 referendums to deny councils any authority as a third tier of government. Councils have no authority, and everything that these political parties and councils are doing is unlawful. They have no authority. They assume the authority, and because we don't know our rights, you just accept it. Okay? So I'm going to share the screen again, and then we'll show you where you can find your rights. Go to Educate, Our Rights. These are your inalienable rights, and they are down here. So go and read these. And if you want to know more about common law, we do have these courses available. These are for sale, but they're done by a third party education. We work very closely with Peak Dawn to produce these, and then Peak Dawn provides the education platform online. Okay. All right, let's get to the questions. I'm looking forward to draw out and cash in my birth certificate. Me too. I might even be able to buy a house. London City is what? Power-based? It is the monetary centre of power. This is where they decide how much money is worth. It's the City of London, and it used to be walled. I think there's still remnants of the wall, but it is a specific area of London. How do we access our live birth certificate? I'll do that again for you. So you go on here, you can go to, where are we? Facilitate, records. So here are the common law records. And this is a very interesting one. If you're going to court, you should watch this because it explains what the judges are and how, and the lawyers and how they work. So you can record your live birth here. just click on here. There's a whole bunch of frequently asked questions, which I recommend you read, as they will save you a lot of time. Fill in this. And when you get down the bottom here, you get the detail, your birth details, your father's details, your mother's details, and then you submit it. And immediately you get a PDF live birth record in your email. No charge, it's all free. And let's go back up here to records. And you can also record things like your marriage, your motor vehicle, lawful rebellion, property ownership, record a business organization or trust in the private, record your medical marijuana use. This is a charter to establish a common law assembly, and I'll explain this one a bit later on. This is your oath of office to be used by the assembly as administration members, sheriffs and court members, and this is your personal property record. Now the government provides one, but this is in common law, and you can record anything you own on this page. So even your animals, you can record them on here, you can record pictures and everything so that you can establish ownership.
Mike, may I interject for one moment?
Sure.
A question just popped up on this topic. Does this apply to only Australian live births?
No, anybody in the world can come and do it. But we've got people from Canada and New Zealand and England, even parts of Europe. And because I have wide-ranging contacts around the world, I also do Zoom calls with the common law groups around the world. So the last one I was on, we had Greece, Italy, France, Holland, Germany, Britain, and Canada on the Zoom call. But that's by no means the only countries that are now setting up common law assemblies. They're doing it in Finland, Russia, Norway, Sweden, everywhere. Yeah. Yes, Jerry asks, have these records been recognised in any maritime law court? I believe so. I don't know personally, but I do know that people have used the birth certificate to get, what do you call it?
Bank accounts.
Yeah, you can use it for a bank account, also for getting benefits from the government. What are the steps we need to take to prevent us from being penalised for not applying for the digital ID? This is the crux of the matter, isn't it? We are conducting a series of interviews or webinars at the moment to explain all of this. We're also working with a chap in Sydney who has gone to court over 100, or not himself personally, he's helped people go to court over 100 times to fight fines, and 100% success. Myself, I have beaten the Victorian County Court to a standstill and the Commonwealth Department of Public Prosecutions. I have stopped them trying to take me into court down in Victoria because I know the law. And in fact, in Section 80 of the Constitution, it specifically says that in a criminal case, the court case must be held in the state where the purported crime was committed. I am accused of publishing an article about a court case in Melbourne a few years ago, and I didn't know it at the time, but there was a court suppression order against publishing anything. So they've been trying to drag me through the courts now for 2 years, and I'm still out here, I'm still walking free because they cannot contract with me. If you contract with the government, you're in their clutches. So to answer you very quickly, what are the steps you need to take? Refuse to comply. It's that simple. And if they come around to badger you, there will be videos and Zoom calls from now on that you can join in to learn how to stop them completely. I heard that you can bypass this if you make yourself a secretary of the business and not a company director. Heard this, I think, from Darren Dixon on Lawful Me. Yes, because Darren Dixon is a lawyer, so he's thinking of a legal way to do it. Now, there is a difference between lawful and legal. Legal is their system. So anything that they do in their system is legal. And it's all based on deception, and you have to contract with them. Everything the government does is a contract between you and the government. When you accept that contract, then you're in their clutches. If you don't accept the contract and you tell them, I do not consent, then there's nothing they can do about it. Now, this is a video of a woman who went to court in Melbourne, and have a listen to how she handled them. Can you hear me? I can see you on the screen there.
Yes, can you hear me? Yes, I can hear you, so that's fine.
Yep, I'm also on camera.
Yourself today?
Yes, I am.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, thank you. I'll just read the charge out quickly for you. So it's at Melbourne on the 13th of September 2020. Did fail to comply with the direction given to that person. That direction being to stay at home unless for essential shopping, work, exercise or caregiving purposes, having been given by a person exercising the power granted by the Chief Health Officer under Section 199 of the Public Health and Wellbeing Act. So in relation to that charge today, are you intending to plead guilty or not?
So, Your Honour, I am the living woman.
Yes.
I'm the beneficiary of the trust. I do not consent to contract or joinder, and I waive the benefits on offer.
Okay, so I'll take that statement to mean that you're intending to plead not guilty today. So thank you for that. I think, Mr. Prosecutor, in this circumstance, contest mentioned? Yes, Your Honour. Yes. Your Honour, I've been given a copy of the letter provided by Ms. Bennett to the court. Oh, yes. I haven't had any prior correspondence. I can't see that there's been any case commenting about it, but certainly no objection to the matter going to the court. Yes, thank you. I think it's suitable. I'll get a date. Contest mention date. Yes, so I'll give you a next date now. This will be the contest mention date, okay? So there's various steps that the matter has to go through before it gets to a contested hearing. So I understand that's what you're looking for eventually anyway, would be a contested hearing or some chance to address the court in relation to the charge. Today's only a mention court, so we're sort of triaging matters to basically matters that are going to be pleas of guilty or pleas of not guilty. So not guilty pleas need to go down a different pathway. So if you can just hold on there for a second, we'll get a new court date.
So, Your Honour, are you administering my trust without my consent?
Oops.
No, there's no administration of any trust at the moment, so we're just dealing with the matter under the Criminal Procedure Act, okay, so that's 2009, an act in force in Victoria, and the next step will be under the Criminal Procedure Act, under Section 55 of that Act. So if you take it over Section 55 of the Criminal Procedure Act, that'll be the next court date in relation to that, and that'll set out the process of what's occurring.
I do not consent to contract or joinder, and
Your matter now is booked in for the next court steps to occur. The next court date is the 7th of December. Okay, so that'll be a contest mention back online in the Melbourne Magistrates Court. Okay, so that might take between 15 minutes and half an hour, depending on what's discussed on that day. But that mention date will give you a better chance to discuss your matter further. Okay, and the submissions you wish to make. Okay, so thank you for your time today in court, and you're now excused.
thank you for your time, Your Honour.
7th of September.
Thank you. Just confirm, you're on the line there, you can see and hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, thank you.
Your Honour's application to withdraw this letter.
All right, thank you. On the prosecution application, they have the charge withdrawn, charge is now struck out. Thank you, the charge has now been struck out, you may be excused.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's how easy it is. When you refuse to contract with them, when you don't answer their questions, when you don't deal with them at all, there's nothing they can do, because everything they do depends on your permission to do something with them. It's a contract. A lot of people have watched this already. They're very good. But I think it's instructive because she did that very well. She maintained her silence when they were trying to bait her into, even with, okay, yes, no, that's a contract. That's when you accept the contract. Do nothing. So D to everyone. Okay, this case example is null and void now, as the magistrates and the prosecution have changed their tactics in the last 12 months. Yes, they have, but we are also changing our tactics. And this is something that we will be showing you later on. Somebody's saying here that we need to pay for a live birth document from live births, deaths and marriages. Yes, it's a different one. The common law one can be used, but if you really want the one that's originally issued to you on the day that you're born, you've got to go to births, deaths and marriages.
Be a good idea to start with like a step one. The main issue for everyone here is the MyGovID introduction. No one knows what to do first.
Okay, I think the first step is to increase your knowledge about the law. And you can do that by joining a common law assembly. On Common Law website, you'll see up here on the main menu when you join the website, Assemblies. Just click there, and that takes you into this page here. And we have these assemblies. Not all of them are active at the moment. Most of them are, though, in Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, Hobart, Tasmania, South Australia. We also have our sister assemblies. There's about 20 of them in New Zealand, and we work very closely with New Zealand. Now, what do we do at the assemblies? Educate first. So what is a common law assembly? An assembly is established when a group of people gather together and agree to work together for a common purpose. An assembly consists of at least 12 or more people who sign the charter to establish and maintain a common law assembly. Now, the activities of a common law assembly are governed by an assembly constitution. It's only about 12 steps, and it lays down the structure of an assembly. So it says here 10, but there's actually 12 now. The constitution is a set of rules all chartered members of an assembly agree to that govern how an assembly is convened and administered. And each assembly is independent. We help you set it up, but you then elect where are we here? You elect your team of administration team, and I'll show you that here. Here's the Constitution. The Constitution is you've got a name, a purpose, the authority and power. The Assembly is a de jure sovereign body, not subject to any other authority besides that of similar sovereign assemblies, whose delegates gather in an elected common law congress. It shall have the full and undivided power of a governing legislative body, unrestricted by veto or interference, including the power to levy taxes, raise a citizen's militia, seize and reclaim the wealth, land and properties of the nation, and establish and maintain local common law courts of justice. So, in other words, an assembly, once you have 12 or more people sign the charter, becomes a local government of the people, by the people, for the people. It's a structure. Shall act as a body at large in all of its deliberations according to a majority vote system of either open or closed balloting and according to this constitution. The assembly shall be administered by an elected convener who shall preside at and chair all sessions of the assembly, and by an executive body and corresponding secretary. The executive shall meet every week to maintain the daily operations of the assembly, its courts and its militia. And in fact, we do that every Monday night. We have a conveners meeting and we all get together and discuss our work together, and also with our assemblies. We solve problems together and we help each other. The establishment of an assembly by the common agreement and pledge of at least 12 men and women in a community under a charter issued under the authority of the Commonwealth of Australia. The original signatories to this charter shall assume no guaranteed role or privilege within the assembly unless thus delegated and elected to a position by the people in assembly. I should add that only chartered members can vote on any business arising in an assembly. We have various other things in here that you should know. And then we have a code of conduct, which lays out what we expect of each other: leadership, integrity, empowerment, quality, courage, respect, inclusiveness, connection, celebration, growth and improvement, no religion or beliefs are. We believe that our religious beliefs are ours and ours alone, and we do not discuss religion in any assembly meetings, nor do we allow our religious beliefs to colour our behaviour and discussions. In other words, we separate politics and government from religion for a very good reason, because sometimes it can get divisive. You can believe whatever you like, but don't bring it to an assembly.
And now, a word from our sponsor, who helps keep these podcasts going.
Dick Yardley's book, Australian Political and Religious Leaders, Treason, Treachery and Sabotage. Dick exposes how Whitlam, Hawke, Keating, Goss, Rudd and all the other Fabians have destroyed our manufacturing and agriculture. If you want to know exactly how they have done it, get Dick's book at advanceaustralia.com.au and click on merchandise. Knowledge is power. Get the power to fight the corruption today.
Shell has said apparently directors are required to download an app on mobile and upload personal and sensitive information. In other words, they're going to start monitoring everything you do. But she's right. You do not consent. That's the first step. And it's very simple. Don't be afraid to stand up to these people. They are bullies and they will try and bully you into it. But if you do not consent, there's nothing they can do. It's that simple. But we've been brought up to obey the government, right? That's what we know. But the government has no authority, no jurisdiction. And it's the same thing when I go to court. I tell the judge, where is your jurisdiction? Where is your authority? Show me your Crown appointment. They can't. They have no authority.
Once you realise your own authority, it's quite empowering, isn't it, Mike?
It is, yes. I'm just not complying with that grub ID crap. Good on you, Frank. Do you all guys already actively hold indictments in a common law court? I don't think that question is relevant to the question here today, but we can talk about that some other time. The deadline is dependent on when you set up your company. More recent setups already are meant to be registered for the director ID, but all companies will need to be registered by the 30th of November.
Yeah.
That sound right? So I think the best idea is everybody refuse to comply. Write them back and say, I refuse to comply. I do not comply. And when enough people start doing that, they're going to have a problem, aren't they? Now, what are the penalties if you do not do it?
I think it was, they mentioned $13,000 off the bat for each director, which would be myself and my wife.
Okay, so if they do that, you do what I did when they tried to fine me for something else. I said, I'll take it to court. And then I did almost exactly what that young woman in Melbourne did. I stood before the judge and I said, prove that you have the authority. I do not comply. I'm a living man and you are a corporation. A man and a corporation cannot do business together. I have no contract with them. And it's not hard to stand up to the government. We've done it many times and we are actually allowed to by clause 61 of the Magna Carta. If you read that carefully, basically it says, when a government no longer serves the will of the people, have an absolute right to rebel lawfully. How do you lawfully rebel? You refuse to comply. And you can do that in the courts. You can refuse to pay fines. You can refuse to get a driver's license. You can refuse to get this digital ID. And if they can't get you to comply, what can they do? And we will help you. If you do go to court, we'll give you all the advice you need. So if you do get summoned to court because you refuse to do this digital ID, believe me, we know how to fight them. And even if one technique doesn't work, we know others. And we're adjusting it all the time. But the fact is, when you go into court or when you're dealing with these people, you do not have to comply. It's that simple. I think that answers the question, Brad. Cooper, are you ready yet? I'm dying to hear what you've got to say.
Apologies, Mike. No, it was my accountant. She sent me a link, which is what I forwarded on to Brad, which is just the application. And she explained to me that she's tried to do it herself a few times and it goes round and round in loops and becomes very frustrating, which I guess is the standard. But yeah, that was it. And it was just, if you do not comply, you'll get these big fines.
No, big deal. I'll tell you what happened to the fine I received. During the last lockdown up here in Queensland, I had some people come around on the second day of the lockdown, which apparently was not allowed. So 6 police turned up on my doorstep and I said, why are you trespassing? You're breaking the Commonwealth of Australia Constitution Act. One cop up the back said, oh no, not that again. And I told them, get off my property. You have no right. You have no jurisdiction here. Get out. And eventually they went. They tried to badger me, but I just stood firm and said, I do not consent, get off my property. So about 20 minutes later, a grizzled old sergeant and a couple of young cops turned up and said, we're going to give you a fine, $1,260. I said, okay, give me the fine. So right away, I wrote a letter to him and to the court and said, I want to go to court. These are the charges against the sergeant who's fined me, and I'll see you in court. I'm still waiting to be summoned to court. That was, what, early this year? I haven't heard a word. They are scared to go to court because they do not have jurisdiction. They know it, and all you've got to do is understand that you can do the same thing. Dee says, I want to learn that process for accountability and place liens. I'll be very happy to get in touch to help you with that. My email address, if you want to write to me, is mikeh@commonlaw.earth. Jody asked, what happens if they freeze your bank account? What can we do? You file charges against the bank and whoever ordered it, and you take them to court. The thing is, up until now, most people have meekly accepted what the government has done to them. But we have seen so many crimes committed against us because of this COVID thing. A lot of people now are waking up and realizing the government is the enemy. And we don't need the government. The government needs us to operate. If we all say, no, we do not consent, what can the government do? And in fact, this is exactly what happened in Czechoslovakia back in 1976 or 68. A guy called Václav Havel, you can read about it, you Google him, V-A-C-L-A-V, Havel. He came up with a charter, 76, and he got millions of Czechoslovaks to sign it, saying that they no longer supported the government. Can you just write back on their correspondence in red pen, I decline the offer to contract? Yes, you can. And if they get back in touch with you and say, you're not doing it, you were going to fine, you say, I do not consent to contract. No contract, that's it. If they can't get you to agree, they can't do anything. But they are nasty and they are criminals. I think they're worse than the mafia, to be honest with you. All right, any questions about this so far? Do you all understand now that you have rights? You do not have to consent to anything the government tells you, and they have no jurisdiction over you because you are living men and women. The government is an organization and you cannot contract with a living man or woman, cannot contract with a dead entity. Now, to give you an example of that, if you go to a cemetery, why are all the names written in all caps? Because they're dead, right? So when you get a letter from the government, you look in that window, your name is always in all caps. That is the straw man, which I will explain one day very soon. In fact, I'm doing a series of videos on it right now. If you go on to BitChute and search for the Bloody Aussie Battler podcast, there's a lot of stuff in here. This is the first one here. This is where we discuss taking fines to court. That's the one where the woman got her case dismissed. This is Meet Your Straw Man, and Michael and I are doing a series of this because we've got a lot of stuff. Any other questions? I have a case in Coffs Harbour very soon. Would you be interested in talking to? Yeah, sure, no problem. You've got my email address. Happy to answer any questions.
Feel free to add my email to that as well, Mike.
BobbyBB13@protonmail.com. Okay, we've been going for an hour, so I think we'll call it a day here. We will be scheduling another one, and I hope that we've been a big help for you. And as I said, please email me if you have any questions or if you'd like to pick my brains about anything. I'm always happy to help.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much. And everyone else that came along tonight, I'm astounded by the response that we got. I really am. And I apologise if it seemed unorganised. I really was a busy guy this week.
No problem. And we'll be using the same Zoom link from now on. We were using another Zoom link, which I repurposed, but now we have our own dedicated Zoom link. So use this one each time. And I look forward to seeing you the next time. We'll announce it on the Signal chat. All right. Thank you all very much.
Common law is for everyone. Come and join us to create a better future in our Commonwealth of Australia. Our mission is to educate, facilitate and activate, to empower you so that you can confidently protect your rights and freedoms. We are peacefully and actively educating people about their rights and helping free everyone to live their lives to the full. Knowledge is power. We provide assembly meetings where people like you can learn and take responsibility for their lives. Join a common law assembly in your region here. www.commonlaw.earth/assemblies/assembly-meetings. Let's all work together to create a better future. We are all unpaid volunteers, but it takes a lot of time and money to provide the knowledge. Please donate to support our work. Just the price of a cup of coffee can make a huge difference.